he'd, record on a recorder, and he'd say patient number, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd like talk about whatever I was going through on the recorder as if I wasn't even in the room or my mom wasn't in the room. And it was all medical, all of it. And so he would explain things to me, but it really felt like I was just like his, like all the doctors really, like just their mold of clay to like,
Right.
and they would talk to me through it, but it was all medical jargon and, complex words, and the recorder was recording the whole thing. And so he'd turn to this table and say patient number, da, 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 needing, and he would just run through the whole list of everything on the recorder and then come back to us. And that was the time. I mean, but I had written something a while back that, things, I know it's changed since then, but there's a lot of times when a patient is a patient and not, a person who is experiencing trauma during a time in their life that they're so vulnerable and, impressionable. And it's not to say that every doctor was like that. I loved my surgeon. I mean, he was the one surgeon that I had for years, but it's just those things that like are still, the terms that they use, and the medical field is still so behind in understanding patient relationships when it comes to differences and disabilities, that we're not patients, number XYZ, and they're not deformities and they're not defects. They're, differences. And
Yeah. Those words always kind of cringe.
well, craniofacial, a lot of, I mean, cleft and cleft palate is still considered a birth defect, which drives me, I cannot stand that word. I mean, I when I think of defective, I think of something that you get in the mail from a store, that you work and you return it. And, a person is not defective by any means. And so I wish that those terms like deformity and defective were completely out of medical terminology and just language in general, because it doesn't explain anybody's anything. It just, it explains an object, or an item that doesn't work properly.
Yep. And I feel like those assumptions, those wordings, kind of, it's the gateway to how, that's the lens that they use to look through to see people. And then everybody, it kind of, ripple effects kind of go out from there. And, disability is a defect, and, you're broken, something's wrong with you. We've been very lucky. We've had some fantastic doctors and surgeons, and we've also had, we've had our not so fantastic ones as well. And I've left just streaming in tears, and it's because they don't get the training on how to see the patient sometimes, especially when it's a facial or a limb difference. Those seem to be the odd duck.
The surgeons, well, I've had my surgeon was fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't look the way I do, and I wouldn't have had the experiences I had I not had him as my surgeon. But the nurses and the care team and the patient, or what do you call it, what do they call it, what do they call the family,
the life care,
yes,
the coordinators,
yes, like they were the ones who were empathetic and compassionate and really like saw you and the family, and didn't see you as just a person who was there to get fixed.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's it's it means
Child
so
life
much when sorry?
child life specialist. That was the word
Child
I was
life specialists, yeah.
looking
They're
for.
amazing. They need
Really.
more of them. It really, they need more of them. They need more staffing in that area because it's so important, and it just gives families and people that are going through some of these, surgeries and things, you know, a lifeline to
Yeah.
I see you. I see you as a person.
Right.
Um, we ended up in the hospital again, not related to the surgery, but Nicholas had a infection down the road while he was had his fixators in. So we were in the ER during COVID,
Oh my God.
holed up into our little room, and the hospital is on the same campus as our surgeon's building, and child life came in and brought me a phone charger, and it's like,
Mhm.
can I bring you something else for Nicholas? Do you need a toy? Do you need snacks? What can we do to kind of take care of you and take
Right.
care of you as a person and him as a person, not just kid with giant fixators on his
Right.
legs.
Right.